What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Mets Postgame Show right here on the channel. Chris will join us in just a little bit, but the Mets fall 4-2 to the Arizona Diamondbacks and lose the series to the Diamondbacks at home 2-3. And it was uneventful, so to speak, as we saw signs of life from Juan Soto hitting 2 home runs and keeping the Mets in the ball game, but the Mets just couldn't get another big hit to get within striking distance and or get the lead with second and third, one out in the bottom of the 8th, and they could not get it done. A terrible at bat by Mark Vientos, then a not very good at bat for Brandon Nimmo, and the Mets go out very easily in the 9th inning, and we lose the series to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Again, these are top pitchers in baseball where we face Corbin Burnes and Gallen. We didn't score much off of them. Burnes wasn't pitching well this year, and Gallen was. And, you know, I can go into this whole situation about the starting pitching yet again, not going deep into games, and then you had to see everybody and your mother that the Mets called up over the last 2 or 3 days pitching in games that were important of the end of the month. And this is the thing that I keep on saying with starting pitching and length. It comes back to haunt you. And it took until May 1st. It took until the end of the month for the bullpen to completely be the exact opposite than we see in the first 3 weeks of the season, guys. And I've been calling for this. I've been saying this. At some point, this team, this bullpen, is going to struggle. And, you know, is it the overusage? I think it's more overusage than not. Again, you know, you couldn't even get Kodai Senga going 5 innings. That's ridiculous. How many more days you want? You know what? Let's give him 10 days off every day. How about that? Because you're giving him all the rest that you need, and you still can't get 6 innings from a guy that gets a week off every time he pitches. I'm sick and tired of this starting pitching that everybody just talks about the ERA. Oh, the best ERA in baseball. But they're barely in the middle of the pack. Like when it comes to, they're in the middle of the pack when it comes to innings pitched, right? It's not bad. It's not good. But when you have a bullpen that is used a ton, and everybody could say, oh, well, everybody does that in baseball. Yeah. But you know what I've seen the last couple of days? What did Zach Gallen do? What did Corbin Burnes do? Right? They were getting into trouble, but they were finding ways out of it. They were staying in ball games. You see, look, I'm not saying Mendoza's a bad manager and the Arizona Diamondbacks manager is Murillo is better, but he kept his starters in the game. And you know why? Because they can do it. Again, can anybody tell me that consistently, let's say, I don't know, maybe 5 out of 7 starts, our pitchers can go 5 or 6 innings on a regular basis, each of their own? Either they don't trust the starting pitching doing that, or they can't do it. Because it ain't the fact that they're willing to do it, because Mendoza does everything he can to get those guys out and doesn't extend them. Once in a blue moon, he's done it. We played 32 games. He might have done it 4 times, maybe 5. So a month of games, he's done it a couple of times. So it's frustrating. I'm annoyed with it because, again, if you didn't see the writing on the wall, guys, you were blind by just the winning. And again, the winning's great, but you can't overuse a bullpen in the month of April. I'm not saying these guys have to go 7 innings. But what are we doing with Kodai Senga here? You took him out with 77 pitches. You took him out with 79 pitches. And then today, he was near 90, but couldn't get into the 5th inning. Well, and then you had to use Davinsky. You had to use, Davinsky. You had to use, Liddell, who was really good. Liddell, who was really good, but you had to use him. Then you had to bring out Adcock. You had to bring in Cabrera. Like, you're bringing already your deep depth pieces already. And you have Danny Young and Minter, who are your 2 lefties that you brought up from the beginning of the year as your lefties, and they're both hurt now. Why? Because you overused them. Like, that's what it is. Dolo, how can Soto homers be garbage time? He got within one, and then he got within one again. Can't help that nobody's on base for him. It's not garbage time. Like that's so silly. Like it's not garbage time. If it was 7-1, it would be garbage time. It was a 1-run ball game both times. So yeah, Kimmer gave up 4 runs. Understandable. I'm not complaining about just the pitching. But again, look at how many goddamn bullpen arms we used today. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 today. Right? 4 today. Okay. Fine. 4 today. What was it yesterday? 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, it was an opener. So you use all 4 guys. So 8 guys in 2 days, and you lost both of those games. You got your ace on the mound in Kodai Senga. After an opener, you need your best pitcher, which it should be Kodai Senga, to go deeper into ball games. He couldn't do it. That's a problem. I'm sorry. That's a problem. You just went through an opener yesterday where you basically went into the depths of your bullpen yesterday. All right, you lost that game. You know what? Pretty good chance you could have lost that game because of the fact of you using your opener and your major depth pieces to get through the game. Today, you had to use more bullpen guys because your pitcher who needs extra days rest every single start can't go 6 innings. Can't even go 5 innings today. Now, does the offense need to pick it up? Sure. Absolutely. But they also did score 28, 27 runs in 2 games when the pitching was giving up 7 and 8 runs. So the offense should be better. But again, it's moments like this where it's like, did anyone believe Adcock was going to do the job? I mean, come on. Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I mean, come on. You need a Kodai Senga to go deeper. Yeah, so he was sick. Oh, I'm sorry. Then don't pitch. Like, this is what I don't understand. He was sick. Boo-hoo. I don't care. Don't pitch if you can't do what you needed to do. Like, okay, you're sick. Then don't pitch. If you can't do the job for what you need to do, then don't do it at all. It's the same thing with injuries. If you're injured, that's not an excuse. Don't play in the game if you're hurting, because you're hurting your team. If Senga was too sick to pitch, then he needed to not pitch today. Throw somebody else out there. Because all you did was use more bullpen arms because he couldn't go deep into a game. No, but you could have brought somebody else up. You could have optioned somebody. And you could have brought another guy who was on rotation, who was ready to go every 5th day in the minors. You could have brought him up. Because the Mets have those guys. They're available. Would have they made the same thing? Probably not. Who knows? But again, we're going to give a standing ovation for 1 run in 4 innings. We needed more from him. John, it's been a problem the whole year with guys in scoring position. It's been a problem the whole year. 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. That was the other thing I just brought up. You can't have a terrible at-bat by Vientos and a no-show by Brandon Nimmo. And again, this is the Brandon Nimmo we get now, guys. Haven't I talked about stats being glaring and you just read the stats and you say, oh, well, that's great. No, Nimmo has 21 RBIs. He's had like 3 games and it is most of his RBIs. He'll be a no-show for another 3 weeks. And then he'll have a big game again to score 5 or 6 RBIs. And that's what Nimmo does. That's what he is now. But it was terrible at-bats in the bottom of the 8th. They needed to get the job done here. You have Stanek that looks like a shell of himself. And the stuff is there. But again, when you're overused, your location is not going to be great. Stanek has been clearly overused. And again, the pitching lab can make anybody a better pitcher, but it can't help you with length. Can't help you making pitchers go deeper into ball games. If the Mets don't trust the pitchers to do it, or they can't do it. And I see my boy Chris here, and we're going to pop him up just now. How's it going, Chris? How are you feeling?
What a brutal game, dude. What a brutal game. Oh my goodness.
All around,
Just
all around.
sounding defeated over here. I mean, that's just as brutal of the last two games as you can
Yeah,
freaking get, honestly.
agree.
From top to bottom.
You,
I,
you
I
can you
don't
can
want to
take
disturb
anything.
you for where you left off, but that's just brutal. I'm
So
sorry.
obviously, I brought up the issue with the bullpen, with the injuries, with the overusage. Kodai Senga,
Mhm.
who we needed to go deeper in the ball game today after the opener yesterday, that was a huge deal to me. Look, the offense didn't do their job. We all know that, right? They didn't do their job. But at the same time, when you got Adcock and Davinsky and Wandell, I know one of the guys pitched well, in the last two games, but you're going to the depths of your depth in your bullpen in the minors. So we can't expect, greatness from these guys. And again, Stanek's a shell of himself. Diaz hasn't pitched in a week. He had opportunities to come into the game. Maybe we can blame Mendoza for that. But again, it's I don't know. Uh, People in the chat are saying, "Oh, Kodai Senga was sick." Okay, if you're sick, then don't pitch because you're not helping the team if you go out there and throw 4 innings. All right, you gave up 1 run, but we needed length from you. And again, we saw two guys in the Arizona Diamondbacks that they didn't eat. Burns yesterday didn't have his great stuff, but he gave you length. And then today, Gallon did the job as well. They gave you a little bit more length, and that's needed, especially with the Diamondbacks who were using a ton of bullpen arms. This was a day after an opener where Kodai Senga needed to at least give you 5 innings, maybe even six. And again, he's sick. Okay, what are you gonna do? But you gotta do better than that. You really do.
Well, it's a two part. I mean, but you can put the blame all around, to be honest. I mean, if you're
Correct.
gonna be the Mets and you're gonna continue to give Kodai Senga that extra day of rest, it's inexcusable to go out there. Yeah, the stat line looks all right because he only gave up 1 run over the 4 innings, but he was just so inefficient, man. Fastball velocity was down. I mentioned that in the pregame. The walks, he walked what, three batters, four batters potentially. Two back-to-back innings of
Yeah.
29 plus pitches, which is absolutely brutal. Of course, you're not going to get any length with that. And the strikeout rate is going down with Kodai Senga. He's not missing that many bats, right? And the fastball is just bad. It's not as sharp. It's not as lively, and so he has to overcompensate with the ghost fork. And when hitters are coming around the second time through the lineup, third time through the lineup, right?
Yep.
They understand what's coming, and they understand that the ghost fork is usually going to be a ball, and so they're drawing lengthier at bats from Kodai Senga because he can't keep them honest with two pitches. He's only throwing one pitch and relying on it so heavily. And so I mentioned all that in the pregame, and that's exactly how it played out. He only gave up 1 run, which is great, but you're like you said, and you said this for a while now, like if and I don't have, and I've been on record saying I don't have any problems going with the 6-man rotation, but if you're going to do so, and if you're going to tailor this rotation to give this guy an extra day of rest, he can't put up this type of, inefficient outing where you only give 4 innings. And so I completely agree with that 100%. Kodai Senga did not do his job at all, and the Mets needed better out of him today. On the flip side of things, offensively, the approach is terrible. It was terrible, and they still couldn't get the job done, even though they were carried by Juan Soto's 2 solo home runs. Mark Vientos and Brandon Nemo and what they did in this ball game in the bottom of the eighth inning, they should have that at bat for both of them each on replay until tomorrow's game because that is
Yep.
absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And so the fact that okay, you lost yesterday, right? Fantastic. Should have been a winnable game. 0 for 10 with runners in scoring position. To come back today, right? And none of us complained after they came back after a brutal loss in DC because they won 19-5 and the
Correct.
offense got their heads out of their asses. That did not happen today. Zach Gallen, who has struggled mightily this season, he's throwing 92 miles per hour with a knuckle curveball. He's throwing one predominant put away pitch, and it's a hanger. It's literally in the middle of the zone, and he's just hanging it there for you to go and smack. And they there's no in-game adjustments from this lineup. They were guessing. Francisco Lindor was guessing, right? He looked pretty bad on a fastball right down the middle because he was guessing about the knuckle curveball from Zach Gallen. In the later stages of the ball game, Brandon Nimble on 3-2 with 2 outs and runs in scoring position was guessing,
Yep.
not ready to swing the bat. A bunch of guessing up there. And that's the most frustrating thing of it all. There was no game plan. There was no approach. There was nothing from this offense. So I think, honestly, it's an equal blame for me. It's an equal blame in terms of trying to figure out why the Mets lost this game. But I agree with you 100%. Kodai Senga, inexcusable. Bullpen, what do you want him to do? What do you want him to do? I know that
I
Hennessy
agree.
came into the ball game and didn't look great, and put Max Krennic in a very tough situation. And Max Krennic did a great job again.
Yeah.
How many times are we going to put Krennic in these, do or die situations? How many times? How many times does he have to come into the ball game and save this team? It's just inexcusable. And yeah, the bullpen, which has carried this team for pretty much the entire season thus far, the lack of innings from the starters, right? And coupled with the injuries and preserving the leads for an offense that doesn't really give you that many runs on a daily basis, it's
Yeah.
frustrating. And it
Yeah.
feels like none of this team, like the whole team hasn't clicked just yet. And we're still waiting for that. So
Yep.
I can't help but rant after this game. Yesterday, I understood a couple of questionable decisions by Mendoza. 0 for 10, runners in scoring position, can't win ball games like that. Good teams bounce back and they learn from yesterday, and they put up better at bats after a game like yesterday. And the Mets didn't do that today, unfortunately.
Yeah. And listen, the lineup has done this all year. It's just the pitching has just quieted the noise around the lineup because the pitcher was holding it down. And again, I've been saying this for a while. I was very concerned about this starting pitching going into the season, and it wasn't about if they are good or not. That's fine, but again, when you're 4 and 5 inning pitchers and you're averaging around that for your pitching staff, I don't care how good your bullpen is. You got to use a ton of guys, and it's frustrating because the writing was on the wall with this bullpen. It was clear. And again, it was only Reed Garrett and Kranick are the only two that were basically surviving the mayhem that was going on with this bullpen. And Buto looking terrible. Finally, he looked good yesterday, but he was looking terrible. You had Minter get hurt. You got Danny Young get hurt. And Diaz really hasn't pitched in a week. And when he was in there, he could be a hit or miss. So all these guys are struggling, except for those two guys. And eventually, Kranick and Garrett are going to fall into that category very soon because you're already overusing them. You can't use Kranick and Garrett because they're the only guys you can trust. And that is the issue that I have why I keep on saying if you're going to go to a 6-man rotation, because again, this 6-man rotation, Chris, what did I say before the season? The 6-man rotation is off. It's a fool's gold. It is a blanket over the main problem with Kodai Senga and what you use him for and what it does to the rotation. Because it gives everybody an extra day off. But if they can't do it and you're not going to let them go, now it's either they don't trust them or they can't do it. It's got to be one or the other. And you got to choose one. Because, let them go. I'd rather the starter go into the 6th inning and have a hard time getting out of the 6th inning. But at the very least, you tried it. It feels like Mendoza is afraid to let these guys do it more often than not. Like as soon as sign of trouble, boom, he's running out of the dugout. And that's a problem.
I will say for Kodai Senga, he's been one of the better guys in this rotation about going deeper into games. I mean, he's got 2 games where 2 of his first 5 starts are 6 innings and beyond, and the other third one is 5 2/3 innings. So, I 100% today was a rough outing. I do think that he had like 10 more pitches in him if Mendoza wanted to utilize that.
Did.
You know what I mean? Excuse me, because my allergies are active. But what I will say is that, I don't understand. And I apologize of me coming in late, was running late back home. If you talked about this already, but why the hell is Edwin Diaz not in the game? Yesterday, you saved him, right? You go with Stanek, you go with the veteran, and you decide to save Diaz. And the explanation we got, because I didn't know what the explanation was because I was doing the post game yesterday with Zach, but apparently the explanation was that you can't use your high leverage arms all that often when you're down in the ball game, which we've seen actually plenty of times, especially last season with Edwin Diaz. So that just goes against exactly how he was managing last season. Okay, got it, understood. I still agree with my personal take, and I think that a lot of this Mets fan base was like, you should have thrown Edwin Diaz into the game yesterday. He hasn't pitched since April 26th. What the hell are we doing? He goes to Davinsky, backfires, comeback falls short. The situation still applies today. It's the same thing, Mendoza.
Yes.
You literally have the same situation and a chance to learn from your mistake the previous night.
Yep.
And so I understand that Reed Garrett has been dominant all season long, but it's like Edwin Diaz, like, what are we really saving Edwin Diaz for at this point? You know what I mean? You got to get some work in
Yeah.
from Diaz, who hasn't pitched in 6 days at this point. It makes no sense. The
Yeah.
explanation, I'm sorry, is inexcusable.
I
So
agree.
I think that it's a rare series where Carlos Mendoza I just can't agree with what he was doing out there with these pitching decisions.
You know what? He's had this issue with the bullpen since last year as well. Like there's been a lot of decisions where it's like, why would you go to him? Why wouldn't you bring this guy in? He's had that problem. His bullpen usage or the way he's used certain guys or not used certain guys has been an issue last year as well. And again, it kind of got, I would say, kind of got pushed to the side because the starters last year were going deeper, so they were kind of saving him a little bit to use 4 or 5 guys, and it's kind of getting exposed at this point now because he's using 4 to 5 guys every single day, so it's more glaring now with Mendoza's reasoning or choices of who to bring in. Again, you cannot bring Adcock in this game when you got Diaz available. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying, you know what? We know Reed Garrett, that second inning can be a hit or miss. We know that. He gave up the home run to make it 4-2. Okay, I understand what you were trying to do, but Diaz has got to be in that ball game. I'm sorry. I don't want to see Garrett or Adcock. I just don't. Not for a second inning of Garrett. Not right now when he's one of your better pitchers right now. He has been perfect. You know what? You have to save him for tomorrow because I can guarantee you nobody's going for more than 5 innings tomorrow because again, this is our MO, and this is the issue that we're gonna have. And hopefully you have a couple of rain delays so we can rest everybody because it's getting ridiculous now because the offense has still been struggling, right? That is not, we're not getting away from that blame, but the strength of the team is getting hurt. One, by the offense not scoring runs and doing their job, but two, it's giving the manager too many choices of what he should use as a bullpen piece coming out of the pen. And it's either the guy he trusts, two guys he trusts, you could see that, and then he just goes to anybody. Like, how in 2 games you're going to use every depth guy you brought up here in the 2 games and expect to win a ball game? I'm sorry, it just doesn't work like that. It was a bad job by Mendoza in this series.
I agree. There's nothing else to say. I completely agree with that. And you know what? You know what? I don't think Mendoza has the option to play around with who he trusts versus who he doesn't trust at this point.
He
If
does,
he
no,
didn't trust,
absolutely.
and a lot of people saying that, I understand that Edwin Diaz, I think we both understand, everybody understands that Edwin Diaz hasn't looked great necessarily to begin
No,
this season. Everybody knows that, right? I mean, he did get the job done his last outing. He had a 4-pitch walk. He looked a little bit erratic, and Alvarez went out there to calm him down, and he struck out 3 for the save. But you know what? Like, if they didn't trust Edwin Diaz, they'd probably be putting him into 8th inning situations, right? We haven't seen any of that this season.
no,
So if he is getting saved for the 9th and 10th inning, he was warming up for the 9th yesterday. He was
yes,
warming up. He looked like he was going towards the entrance
yeah,
before we saw Davinsky coming back from commercial break.
yeah,
He thought that he was getting into the ball game. And then Mendoza said, no, let's roll Davinsky for the 2nd inning. What in the world? And I don't know if this is the strategy of trying to save some of your other guys, right? With these depth guys, but you're playing the Diamondbacks. This series matters.
yeah,
How did last season play out, right? With the standings at the end of the year.
yeah,
I've been saying this 3 times already during the pre-games and post-games during this series so far. These games matter. I know it's only May 1st, but telling us that you can't utilize your high leverage, closer, in a game where you're behind by 1 run to try to preserve the lead. Guess what? If you would have done it and he posted a 0, you win. You win the series, and who cares what happens today at this point because you already won the first 2 games. It's just questionable. I don't like the explanations,
yeah,
and I know that people are still going to try to defend it, right? Because Mendoza can do no wrong. No, Mendoza can do wrong, right? I mean,
yeah.
he's not perfect. No manager in this league is perfect. Does he do a great job pretty much consistently for the
Yeah,
majority of the time? Yes, we're not going to take that away from him. Nobody's saying that he doesn't. You know what I mean? He's a great manager, fantastic manager. And he's got a lot of tough decisions. So this makes it hard, especially when you have these injuries in the bullpen. But I think that the way that I see it is if you're a manager at any given point this season, you play to win the damn game, dude.
yeah.
You play to win the game and you don't, you
You can't
don't
worry
get
about
cute.
tomorrow. You can't.
You can't worry about tomorrow. You can't get
Yeah,
cute. And it
agree.
felt like the Mets were just worrying about tomorrow. And even in a series that was still winnable, the Mets are somehow still thinking about tomorrow and the Cardinals series starting up or whatnot, right? Because tomorrow is Cardinals, right? Friday night, if
Yep,
I'm not mistaken.
yep,
Yeah. So I'm saying, what are you saving Edwin Diaz for? At this point, with 6 days off, he should be able to go back to back games at this point. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
I agree.
It's brutal. I don't know. I don't have any explanation for that. I have
Yeah,
none.
and that this is what's frustrating. Like I just don't understand the logic. Like you got to win, winning series. And I'm not saying you got to sweep or anything like that, but there was two opportunities to bring Diaz into the game. And again, not saying the Mets would have won the game. They will come back and win the ball game. It would have been undetermined. Who knows? But if you would have kept it to 3-2, you know what? Maybe the guys like in the ninth inning weren't trying to, I don't know what they were trying to do in the ninth inning, to be quite honest. They were swinging at first pitches. Like, what are you doing? You're trying to get on base here. But overall, you still gotta use your guys. Like, I don't understand the hesitation. Is he worried about Diaz coming in and walking the ballpark and throwing 29 pitches in the game, and then God forbid he's not available tomorrow? Like, at some point you got to start using him. Like, again, if he's injured, then put him on the IL and bring somebody else up. That's the only thing I can think of. Like, this is what frustrates me about the Mets, and they've done this all year with certain guys. Like, they're like, oh well, he's injured, he's sick, so don't play him. You're hurting the team if they're not going to do the job you put them out there to do. It just doesn't make sense. Like, there's no excuse. You pick up the ball, you pick up the bat. I don't want to hear about an injury or a sickness. Like, don't play. Like, if you're concerned about Diaz's side or hip, then why isn't he on the IL? Why is he taking up a roster spot? Because if you're not confident in using him in 2 days straight, then he's hurting your team. Because then Adcock comes in, Davinsky comes in. Like, it was nice to see Henderson Cabrera, but again, first time out, I'm not expecting him to be great. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's frustrating. Again, we're 21-11. The world is not over. The season is not over, but it's May 1st, and we're talking about the depths of our bullpen, the issues of usage with our bullpen, and our manager not knowing when to put guys in, and rather put guys in that are not going to be on this team in 2 weeks than a guy that is our closer or somebody that's better, and putting that guy in. Like, it's I don't know, man. It's frustrating because there's a couple of games this year where I think Mendoza kind of cost us. And again, not saying that the offense or the pitching shouldn't have done the job when he called these guys on the field, but I think Mendoza had a couple of bad decisions, and it's only a month into the season. I mean, you can probably count the 4 games where he just made weird decisions and bad decisions, and it cost us games. And again, it's up to the players to get the job done, whoever he calls upon. But again, who would you rather have there, Adcock or Diaz? Like, it's just a Davinsky or Diaz. Like, it's an easy answer. And again, I don't care. I don't even care about today's game if you were going to use Diaz yesterday. If you had to throw him for 2 innings or throw him for 30 pitches, if he had to get it done that way, all right, maybe he won't be available today. But again, thinking about it, you had an opener, so it should have been all hands on deck yesterday. With Kodai Senga going today, you were like, you know what? I expect him to go 5 or 6 innings. So you shouldn't be worrying about your bullpen today as much as you were worrying about it yesterday with the opener. And I know you got a shit luck when it comes to your both lefties out of the bullpen getting hurt. Both of them probably going to need season-ending surgery. I understand. It sucks. You're losing most of your guys, and then Stanek is a no-show at this point. But next man up. There was decisions there that would easily be made that you could have just used Diaz in those spots. And again, we're not saying that the offense would have won the ball game for us if Diaz would have came in and put zeros on the board, but it would still give you an opportunity. Once they hit that home run, it felt like the air came out of the balloon, especially in today's game. So
Yeah.
it's frustrating. It really is.
I know that it's only May. We just hit the calendar month of May, and I know that we're a long ways off from the trade deadline. David Stearns made a move last season. I know that it was in July too for Phil Maton as a very early kind of bullpen addition. I mean, the Mets are gonna have to do something here. I think that there's only so many internal options that they can turn to, and there's only so much time that they can afford to waste before a guy like Brooks Raley comes back, right? I mean, you hope that Jose Butto and Ryan Stanek just pull it together because they haven't looked great as of recent. I think Jose Butto had a fantastic comeback outing after that debacle in DC. But, Stanek's he wants to talk about expected, exit velocities in his post game. Then if that's the route he wants to take, then so be it. But that's 3 times in a row you haven't got the job done. The results haven't followed. No matter if the exit velocity is 85 or 90, they're finding ways to get base hits and score runs off of you. It's that simple. You're not getting the job done. So I don't want to hear any expected, exit velocity crap. And usually I'm all for that. I love the advanced analytics. I'm all into that. But like, if that's your third time through, if that's your first bad, outing and there's nothing else that follows it, and you come back the next day or the next outing and are lights out, sure, I'll buy that excuse. But that's 3 times in a row, dude. Like, what are we
Exactly.
doing here? You didn't get the job done. You'll do it next time. Simple as that. I don't know, man. This bullpen, we'll see what happens. I think David Stearns is going to work the phones. I like the David Robertson idea because at this point, I mean,
Yeah, you might
I
as
hate
well.
to use the word desperation, but I mean, at
We
this
are.
at this point, it's kind of a little bit of desperation at this point. If you guys got guys that aren't producing and guys that are injured at this point,
Yeah.
did we talk about the McNeil play by the way? Tyrone Taylor throwing into second base and then McNeil throwing it on the
I
runner's
didn't bring that
shoulder.
up, but that was one of the things I was going to bring up. Yeah, you could talk about it.
No, I mean, it's frustrating too. I mean, I don't really know. I didn't get a good vantage point in terms of how, like, what the angle was for Jeff McNeil, but I feel like that's a throw that should be made. First of all, Tyrone Taylor, not sure why he threw into second base, as they were saying on the broadcast. You throw it to third base, you got the guy out by a mile. You weren't ever getting the guy at home, so third base was the option
Yeah.
to go and get. And then McNeil, I mean, I understand that it's a little bit of an awkward angle and the runner's kind of turning in, has like a wide, I guess they call it like a banana turn when I was playing, right? A wide angle around second base coming into third base. But you got to get yourself in proper position to not even make that close to getting, close to that runner and having it ricochet off of him. So that was
Yeah.
a bad job by both Tyrone Taylor and Jeff McNeil collectively. And it results in, at that point, did they get that runner in from third too?
No, they didn't.
They didn't score. They
That
stranded it.
yeah,
They
they
stranded
stranded.
it,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah. So I guess it's a moot point, but that's a type of play where hopefully if that situation comes up again, Tyrone Taylor knows where to throw the baseball, and then Jeff McNeil gets himself into proper position. So, again, this series, it's a culmination of a lot of things. I mean, we can sit here and talk about it until we're blue in the face for hours, but it's a culmination of a lot of things from both the bullpen, the pitching, the rotation that is, and also the offense. And really, though, as we're talking about pitching and bullpen, etc., Vientos and Nimmo seemed like they were figuring it out for just a little bit over the past week. But man, that's a situation where you cannot have that happen, where
No.
you strand those runners. And it's a continuous thing with this offense with runners in scoring position. They can't do a job. We're asking for a sacrifice freaking fly.
Yep.
And Vientos, for him specifically, and Nimmo the same thing, right? But that was 2 outs instead of 1 out. Vientos specifically has the ability to hit a sac fly, and he's getting high fives in the dugout. He missed 2 meatballs. One
Yep.
was an off-speed pitch, and one was a fastball. He missed 2 meatballs to get the job done. And then he's flailing on a slider or whatever it is, down and out in the zone. The same thing that he did the night before.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, You know what I mean? What's being said in that dugout after the inability to learn from all the previous rest of the game? In the at bats 1, 2, 3, and you come up the fourth time or third time in a game and you still can't make the adjustments. What is going on? There
Yep.
needs to be some accountability. And this doesn't even apply to Lindor, who took the over. This doesn't apply to Pete Alonso, who's continuing
No.
to swing a hot bat. This doesn't apply to them. This applies to Brandon Nimmo and Mark Vientos specifically, because those guys need to get, again, their heads out of their asses.
Yeah.
This lineup is going to either stay stagnant like it is right now and peak because you are getting carried by 2 or 3 guys at the top, or it's going to go to the next level because you got the first 5 guys in the lineup that are dangerous threats. And until Mark Vientos and Brandon Nimmo start producing consistently, this lineup is going to stay stagnant. And that's just the fact of the matter.
Any pitcher on another team should just walk Lindor, walk Soto, walk Pete Alonso, and pitch to Brandon Nimmo and Vientos, to be quite honest. Seriously, like
double play then a fly out. That's how you get out of the inning.
I mean, why not? Like, Vientos has done this all year. They are throwing you breaking balls and off-speed pitches not in a strike zone, not even close. So you should have that mindset. I'm not swinging at no breaking ball or off-speed pitches until they consistently throw it over the plate. If they don't do that, take your walks. They're throwing fastballs down the middle that you're missing because you're so afraid of the breaking ball and off-speed pitches that you check swinging, you're flailing at a pitch that's like 10 feet outside the zone. That would have hit a left-hander's foot the last pitch he swung out the strikeout. What are you doing? And that's the thing where you talk about, baseball smarts. Simple things like that. You don't need a coach to tell you what's going on in a game. I'm not saying throughout a series. That's something, after the game or, when you come in the morning before a game, you look at the iPad, your coach sits down with you and say, look, this is what they're trying to do. But in game, you should know as a batter what they are doing. I'm not saying if you go down, if you ever check Juan Soto, like when he hit the home run, the first thing he did, he gave his high fives. He goes down to the dugout and watches the at-bat to see what they're throwing him. And I'm not saying that everybody should do the same thing, but that's something that, little things you can take. Get the iPad out. They have them all over the place. They keep on consistently throwing you sliders nowhere near the zone. Put it this way. They were doing what they were doing to Alonso last year, what they're doing to Vientos now. They were throwing all off speed and breaking balls off the plate, and you were swinging at them. And when you got that fastball that was a meatball, like Chris said, you're missing them. You're popping them up. You're behind. You're late on the pitch. You're under it because you're so worried about the breaking ball and off-speed pitches when they're not throwing them in the zone. Like it's simple baseball, just simple baseball IQ, and it's not there for Mark Vientos. He's got to be better than that. And again, sooner or later, we're going to start talking about Ronnie Mauricio when he starts doing more. I swear to God, because David Stearns is not afraid. If you're not doing your job, they're going to find somebody who will, or at least give them an opportunity. And Ronnie Mauricio is the pride and joy of David Stearns because he was going to be the guy before he got hurt. And it just feels that way. And I don't know if there's pressure on Vientos or what, but he's got to figure it out. Brandon Nimmo, I'm so done with Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo's stats, you want to talk about, bloated stats? He's had 3 games this year that total almost every one of his RBIs. He'll have a 4 RBI day, 6, 9 RBI day. Everybody, oh my God, he got a standing ovation at Citi Field. Tying Carlos Delgado against the Yankees, 9 RBI. Who cares? It was a game we were probably going to win anyway. So, look, at the end of the day, those guys need to be better or this lineup will never be what it should be. And they showed a stat. I forgot who. I don't know if it was SN. I think it was SNY. That Juan Soto's last 7 at-bats, except for 1, was over 100 miles an hour of exit velocity. So you see, you notice, like, just go back in the beginning of the year. He wasn't even getting to the exit velocity or even 96, 97. It was the 70s and 80s. So it was a problem. But if you noticed, he's completely adjusting to what they're doing. He's not missing that pitch anymore. That one pitch in the at-bat, he's not missing anymore. That's what Vientos and Nimmo has to do. Nimmo is more disappointing than Vientos to me at this point because Vientos is his second year. right? We always hear about the sophomore slump. He's in that right now. He's learning. So yeah, we're getting on him, but it's an understandable situation what he's dealing with right now. He's just got to adjust. Brandon Nimmo, on the other hand, this is going on 3 years. The same type of approach. And again, we're 21-11, and it might sound like we're 11-21, but when you start to face better teams, those mistakes are going to get very glaring during a game because better teams are going to take full advantage of what you're not doing well. And the Diamondbacks, who've been struggling, is probably I'm going to say, it was Burns' best game. Gallen probably best game today. So you gave a team that you might be fighting for a wild card. I know we're leading the division, but these games are going to matter. And you're playing the good teams now. You're playing the better teams. I know we're playing St. Louis next, but they played us hard. But when you play the better teams, you make those mistakes, they're going to capitalize on them. It's not the Marlins. It's not the Cardinals. It's not other bad teams. They're going to capitalize on those mistakes. You can't have that happen with second and third and 1 out, and you can't get a sac fly. How about a grounder to the other side? I know the infield was in. Hit the ball hard somewhere on the ground at least. Try to get it through.
It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much.
No, I mean
think about the National Series too when they had that situation with bases loaded. What was it? Nobody out or 1 out? Nobody out. And Vientos, I mean, he smoked the baseball right at CJ Abrams, who made a great play. Marte couldn't get a job done. Weak rollover for a force out. And then I forgot who else after that couldn't get the ball out of the infield. I think it was Nimmo as well. It's just the situational hitting is garbage. And Vientos and Nimmo specifically Nimmo, I will say, because I agree with you, the more disappointing player to this point, regardless of what the stats are, has been Brandon Nimmo. By and large. It's because he's guessing. He is guessing at the plate, and nothing has been more evident than one of his last at-bats today. And when he takes a fastball right down the heart of the plate, because for some reason, he thinks that he's worthy of getting a breaking ball on 3-2. No, dude, you're not having a good season. They don't want to walk you. It's 3-2. Swing the bat. It's going to be a fastball. For the life of me, I can't figure out why this Mets team and these hitters are not looking fastball adjusting off speed. That's the one, just general rule of thumb that we all were taught. And so working your way backwards, you're going to look like a fool because this is not an 80-mile-per-hour fastball like they throw in middle school, right? This is 90-plus miles per hour to where this is professional baseball. From that distance, you're still going to get, fooled when you're expecting a 77-mile-per-hour curveball, opposed to that. It's horrible. It's horrible. Guessing and working backwards off speed to fastball is not the way. Fastball, then adjust to the slow pitches, stay back a little bit longer, and drive the baseball. And that's exactly what's going wrong. I'm sorry. And honestly, at this point, how do they not see it? Who in that dugout between the two hitting coaches that we have can't pull someone aside and say, listen, you need to stop guessing breaking ball because that's exactly what's going to happen to you time and time again. And I agree with you, though. The difference is from Soto, and the reason he looks more comfortable is because he's not guessing anymore. There was a handful of times earlier this season, a couple of weeks ago, where he looked like he was guessing, and he looked foolish up there, which is very unlike Juan Soto. We haven't seen that type of a bat in a long time from him because he is not guessing. He's locked in, and he has hit into some tough outs. So has Mark Vientos, as Dante's saying in the chat, right? I'm not denying that. But at the end of the day, an all fields approach, being level to the middle of the field, adjusting to either side, the pull side or oppo, is the best approach, really. And that's exactly what Juan Soto did. Both of his home runs coming the opposite way. When's the last time we've seen Brandon Nimmo really drive a baseball to the opposite field with authority?
He doesn't.
He doesn't anymore. He doesn't. Pete Alonso, guess what's working for him this season? Being an all fields hitter. It's not by mistake. It's really not.
Chris, The reason why I'm not going to blame the coaches is that I think it's the players being stubborn. Because why has Pete Alonso, like, have the coaches only spoke to Pete Alonso about this? No, probably not.
I agree.
The,
Sure.
the issue is, and I talked about this with Nimmo being very stubborn, and this goes for the other guys with Vientos as well. And you saw with Juan Soto, even though he wasn't getting the production, you saw that he was trying to get that one pitch he was trying to get and making sure that he was controlling the at bat, not the pitchers. That is something that has to be better from a lot of these guys. But Pete Alonso is the complete opposite of last year, right? We talked about why weren't the hitting coaches talking to this guy? Now, I think Pete Alonso was stubborn last year, to be quite honest with you, along with Nimmo. And you know what? Maybe Vientos wasn't brainwashed yet, and was just doing what he going up there and hitting and not trying to think too much. He's thinking a lot now. I truly think it's stubbornness from these players, because I can assure you that Chavez and Barnes are not going to Pete Alonso in a secret room and saying, "Hey, look for that fastball. Don't swing at that shit in the dirt." Of course he's telling everybody. Of course they're telling everybody. If they're not, I think somebody would have realized that they should be fired if they're not doing that. I think it's stubbornness. I think when they think a lot of these guys think, again, Brandon Nimmo made a ton of money for one season of changing his approach, and it's not been successful since. Like, clearly the pitchers adjusted to Brandon Nimmo, and he's not made no adjustments against the pitchers. It's been the same thing. Breaking ball, boom, fastball down the middle. And you look at it. What are we doing here? Like, I never understand. Like, I don't know what the hell is wrong with baseball. And it's around the league. It's not just the Mets. All around baseball, there's fastballs right down the middle that are 92, 93, 94 miles an hour, that are cookies, bad in practice fastballs. And you're taking them right down the middle, but they'll swing at a slider 4 feet in the dirt. Like, all that shows is that you're guessing and you're looking for breaking ball and adjusting to the fastball. Do you know how hard that is as a hitter? Like, if anybody ever played baseball, Chris, I know you did, I have, it is almost impossible to look breaking ball or off speed and adjust to a fastball. Because guess who's coming quicker? Your reaction time is very limited. You always look fastball, especially
Always.
in a 2-2 count. You always do. You don't, because you can try to adjust to a breaking ball. Look, if it's an Adam White breaking ball and it's right over the plate and it just buckles your knees, you tip the cap. But most of the time, they're not throwing a breaking ball or speed pitches in the zone. They want to throw them all over the place other than the zone. So you take your walk. Like, that's what I just don't understand. And the situational hitting of this team, the runners in scoring position are just atrocious. It's got to get better, right? We all know why we're 21-11. It was the starting pitching, the lack of runs they were giving up. It was the bullpen doing their job. But again, they were fresh. And you're seeing it now. And again, I'm not the only one talking about innings anymore. The length of the starters. You aren't either. You hear it on the broadcast. You hear it on. I was listening to I was watching the road broadcast. Sometimes I watch the road broadcast just to get an idea of what they're talking about. They're bringing it up as like a point of emphasis of how to beat the Mets. They did it. They talked about it on the Arizona's broadcast. They did it in the Nationals broadcast as well. How they were saying, you know what? Let the starters throw. Let them get out of the game. Even though the bullpen has been really good, they realize that the length is going to be a problem, and they're picking it up on the road broadcast. They're talking about it. The home broadcast, every game they're talking about length. Hey, Clay Holmes is pitching today. The Mets need length out of their starting pitching. Every game they say it, and it's going through deaf ears. It's like the manager has to know this, and this is where I gotta get on Mendoza again, because he needs to know this. I don't care if Clay Holmes tomorrow doesn't have his best stuff. I don't care if he has a 30-pitch inning. Leave him out there. This is what, start 7 of the season? There should be no reason why you can't throw 95 to 100 pitches. You need length out of your bullpen, even if you don't have your best stuff. Really good pitchers find a way to get through a game and get through 6 innings to help your bullpen, even when you don't have your best stuff. My concern with this starting pitching the whole time is that can anybody actually do that consistently? Not every start, I understand that, but consistently enough where it's like, all right, 3 out of your last 5 starts, you went 5 or 6 innings. I would take that every day of the week, but It's 5 2/3, and then it's 4 innings. Then it's 6, then it's 4. Like it fluctuates way too much, and Mendoza has a part in that as well. I'm not saying the pitchers don't want to stay in there, but again, I'm going back to the same thing I talked about when I started the show. It's either not trusting your pitching or they can't do it. Because at some point, you got to let them do it. Not once every 4 starts. That's not going to help your bullpen. So consistency is a big deal with the starting pitching. The bullpen is flailing because of the lack of length from starting pitching, and the offense has been a problem the whole season. And again, it is Vientos and it is Nimmo, the big culprits. And Juan Soto was a part of that. But again, you've seen Juan Soto pick it up the last couple of games. You've seen his at-bats. I think Juan Soto is ready to go. I think it's going to be Lindor, Alonso, and Soto. And hopefully they can carry the team because I have no trust in Brendan Nimmo anymore. And I'm not sure what Mark Vientos at this point right now. So it's the 3 guys in the top 4 of the lineup and hope for the best right now, honestly.
It's kind of interesting, and I was trying to figure out the pattern of Brandon Nimmo, and like the disparity between like ground balls and hitting balls in the air, etc. It's kind of crazy to me because one of his better seasons in 2022 was actually his career high in hitting in ground ball rate. So I don't know, maybe his swing was just a little bit shorter at that point, and I don't know how many home runs did he hit that season. I want to backtrack because I think Brandon Nimmo is such an unusual case, and I have no idea. Like I can't even pinpoint what's going on with him. How many home runs did he hit in 2022? I'm trying to figure this out. This is not really the stream to figure it out on, but you know what? We're here. He had
That's all
16 runs. He had 16 home runs. So
right.
again,
Yeah.
you know, that tells me his approach was probably a little bit shorter in that season. He was still leading off for the team. Highest ground ball rate. I'm never a proponent for ground balls, right? If you have a high ground ball rate like Brett Beatty, usually it's a bad sign. Like that's my take. Line drives, gap to gap, home runs will follow, but don't try for the home run. Be a gap to gap hitter.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Brandon Nimmo. I mean, I hope that he figures it out. But we got like what 5 more years of this, so we'll see what happens. And also, I will say this: in the first inning today, I think it was the leadoff hitter. Of course, they stranded. Kodai Senga was able to strand the runner. Um, Thanks to a Luis Torrens just absolute missile that he had from behind the plate. Oh, he's so good defensively, dude. Brandon Nimmo's first step in the outfield is so damn
Terrible.
slow. It's so damn slow. He's even doing himself a little bit, and I know he made a great catch up against the wall because if you notice,
He
every
plays
single
deeper.
time he's playing deep.
Yep,
He's playing
exactly.
deep. He
Same thing
knows
in
he can't
center
go back
field
on
when he was a
that
center
baseball
fielder, and everybody
because
gave
he
him all
can't
the
go back
kudos in
on
the
it.
world. Yep,
Yeah.
everybody used to give him credit, but all he did was play 3 steps back, and he was deeper,
Yeah.
so it's easy to get to the warning track and to the wall easier. But any ball that's hit in front of him, he's probably not going to get to.
But he
And
was getting to those in front of him back in 2022, but his first step is so bad right now. And
it's
that
terrible.
fly ball off of Corbin Carroll's bat in the very first at bat of this game really put things into perspective for me of like, and I've seen this time and time again, like on a handful of occasions so far this season with Brandon Nimmo. They're playing him so far back in order to, first of all, not have him go back on any baseballs. They'd rather just see him go in on baseballs. But even going in on baseballs, it doesn't seem like he has just that explosive first step to
Well,
get to some of those, tough plays that a guy like Tyrone Taylor probably has no problem getting to. So I don't know. It's frustrating. So we'll see exactly what happens. But I wanted to bring up one more thing, and I completely forgot what it was. But you know what? Just regroup. That's all I got,
yeah,
honestly, to close out the stream. I got to go, but
it's all good.
Rob, you can stay on here and talk. I'm gonna probably watch from my phone, but I actually have to be heading out of here. Regroup. Clay Holmes, he actually had a really good start against the Cardinals his last
Yeah,
time out against the Cardinals, right?
yeah.
6 innings, the first time that we've seen him go more than 5 innings in a game this season so far. Hopefully he's able to replicate that. But you got to wonder, the Cardinals did play. I understand that the Mets did very well against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals really played the Mets like it was clean baseball out of them. I feel like it was a really well contested series out of them. The Mets just did that many more things right. But if you're going to continue to have this situational offense paired with a laboring bullpen, paired with lack of length from the rotation, this is a team in the Cardinals that are kind of like middle of the road, not too great, not too bad, that can definitely steal a series from you if you're the Mets. So Clay Holmes need a really good outing tomorrow. Need it.
Yep.
And Edwin Diaz, if it's a close ball game, he better be in that ball game. That's all I'm going to say.
8th inning. Put him in. Let's go. And I'm gonna have to go too just now. So Chris, you said your final thoughts. I don't know if you gotta run, you gotta run. That's cool. Let's go Knicks tonight, by the way.
Let's go Knicks, by the way. I'll be watching that. I do gotta run, so I appreciate everybody. Smash the thumbs up, subscribe. Hopefully we're talking about spamming the W's on the post game tomorrow. And please, Knicks, please close out this series. I don't want a game 7 because that's bad news at MSG. Peace.
All right, so there you go. Chris got to run. Listen, guys, the thing here with the Mets, and Chris just said it, right? Regroup. You lost the first series at home this year. All right, it is what it is. You're still 21-11. You're still in a good spot. It's time for the starting pitching to pick up their bullpen when the bullpen has been picking them up all year. The offense needs to pick up their pitching. Let's be quite honest about that. The offense, who is 26th in offense, who runners in scoring position, that has to start changing. It has to be better. And again, Vientos and Nimmo are a big part of that. Soto was for the majority of the year. He started to turn around over the last week of games or so, where he's hitting the ball harder. You could see that he's driving the ball to left center. And when he's doing that, that's when you know he's back. And we'll see if that progresses over the next couple of weeks or so. But the offense, it's time for you guys. It's time for the offense to pick up the pitching. The pitching's got to regroup. The pitching's got to figure things out here. We need the rotation to go a little bit deeper into games consistently, not just once a week. They need to do it consistently. We need a couple of back-to-back-to-back, 5 2/3, maybe a 6, maybe 5 1/3, something a little bit better than 4. Anything that starts with a 4 should not happen. So offense got to start picking it up, start picking up the pitching. Because, again, if you score a ton of runs and you start blowing out teams, you don't have to go to the well. You can use Davinsky's of the world or the Addocks when there's a 6-run lead, 7-run lead. You can do that and save your bullpen. We need a couple of games like that. The offense needs to dominate a series. They really have not done that this year. They'll dominate one game, and then they'll have to win games 3-2, 4-3. They've been doing that a lot this year. It's time for the offense to dominate a series and give our pitching a break. Now, the starting pitching still needs to go 5+ innings. They need to do that consistently. You can't have 1 or 2 starts where it's 5 1/3, and then all of a sudden you're back to the 4 innings again, because it's a useless start. It's a complete useless start. So offense, pick up your pitching, starting pitching, let's go a little bit deeper. And bullpen, hang on for dear life. Let's regroup. Let's go to St. Louis, take a series. Let's get back on our winning ways. Keep on winning series, guys. It was a rough series. It was a bad series all around. The offense, the pitching, the manager, everybody's to blame in this series. Should have took 2 out of 3. You didn't. It's regroup mode. Go to St. Louis. Take that series. You're better than them. Limit the mistakes. Fundamental baseball, and you win ball games. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning into the Mets post-game show right here on our channels. Subscribe to the channels, guys, myself and Chris's. Thank you for watching on X if you are watching on X. And if you're a Knicks fan, let's go Knicks. Let's take it in 6 because we don't want a game 7, guys. Have a good night, guys. Enjoy the Knicks game, and we'll see you tomorrow on the pre and post for the New York Mets against the St. Louis Cardinals, guys. Have a good night. Let's go, Mets.
Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets